Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the coverage of Robert Tellis's trial. This is the state of Nevada versus Robert Tellis. He's on trial for the murder of Jeff German. Now, Robert Tellis was a former politician in Cook County, the public administrator who lost his bid for re-election. He thinks because of some negative publicity, articles written by Jeff German that were not very flattering. So the evidence is continued. He's on trial for murder with the use of a deadly weapon on a person over the age of 60. Jeff German was stabbed to death on the morning of September 2nd, 2022. So what occurred on day 4 and 5? Well, if you want to know, stay tuned. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Rebecca, your host of Crafting and Crime Daily. That's because I craft while I'm listening to these crimes. So these trials, so I can recap them for you. And you don't have to listen to all that boring stuff. I am a former nurse, former lawyer, now retired, and able to sit and do my crafting while I bring this to you. And then I also kind of give you the flavor of what's going on in the courtroom. So one of the things that I missed, and I wanted to give it to you on that happened on day 3, because so much happened on day 3, was the DNA. A lot of different people on the stand to talk about the DNA. So the first person was a woman by the name of Anastasia Barton. She was testing for the presumption of blood. She was testing these. She had received swabs from different objects, and she received the objects themselves, and she was testing them to see if what they were seeing was blood. First thing was the shoes. The shoe that was found, there's a pair of shoes, one whole shoe, one cut up shoe that was under the sofa in the home of Robert Tellis that was obtained on the search warrant. And the left shoe was negative for blood. The right shoe that was cut was positive for blood. And then there was a bag found under the sofa with all these cuttings from the shoe. That was positive for blood as well. The scissors that were photographed that were in the kitchen of Robert Tellis were presumptive positive for blood. Not the blade, but the handle. What else? The hat pieces, they weren't able to test the hat itself, but the lining of the hat was negative for blood. The car was negative for blood. The butterfly, which was the outdoor decor that had a spot of what they thought was blood on it, was not blood. The bushes where they photographed like teeny little spots of blood, that was presumptive positive for blood. Everything that Jeff German was wearing, obviously positive for blood, his own. So then it was sent for DNA testing. So then we had the DNA analyst on to testify about the fingernail clippings. First of all, fingernail clippings from the left hand of Jeff German that were taken at autopsy. The DNA showed a mixture. So sometimes it can be a single source of DNA. Sometimes it can be nothing. They just can't do anything with the information, but sometimes they'll identify a single source. Sometimes they'll identify what they call a mixture of sources. In this particular case, the fingernails had a mixture. Now, at the time that this analyst got this DNA, she did not have a reference sample for Robert Tellis, the defendant, because he wasn't in custody yet. So, but they were able to identify, obviously, one of the sources of the DNA was Jeff German, the victim. But then there was an unknown source in that DNA mixture. So once they brought in Robert Tellis for questioning, and they had a warrant to obtain a buccal swab, which is where they take a swab inside of your mouth, from him, they were able to actually run that DNA very quickly, I might add. They run this DNA, and it comes back positive. It matched the unknown DNA that was in that mixture. So the right hand was fingernail clippings were also tested, came back as two males, Jeff Gurman and another source. And that was Jeff. All right, I'm mixing this up. Okay. It was the right hand where Robert Tellis was identified. The left hand was a mixture with another person's DNA, but it was not enough information where it could be interpreted, even if they had a reference sample. So it was just the right hand fingernail clippings that matched Jeff Gurman and Robert Tellis. And then I think that's it. Everything else, the shoes, the scissors, the hat, all those places that were presumptive positive for blood did not have, out of the stuff taken out of the defendant's home, did not come back to Jeff Gurman. No DNA of Jeff Gurman. In fact, the hat had 5 contributors to the mixture of the DNA. So once they get up to 5 people contributing to that mixture, they have to stop. They're not allowed to go any further. It's too difficult to try to figure out whose DNA is who when you have 5 contributors. So I thought that was interesting. No DNA from the vehicle as well. So all it boils down to is we have one piece of evidence, the right fingernail clippings of Jeff Gurman that were identified to be have the DNA of Jeff Gurman on them. Could be from some defensive wounds. You never know. They say that Jeff Gurman solved his own murder. Could that be? How else could that DNA get there? Under his fingernails. In any case, let's talk about day 4. So we have a Detective Tolliver take the stand. She was tasked with doing undercover surveillance by Detective Jaffe during his criminal investigation having to do with corruption in the public administrator's office. So she did surveil him on September 1st, the day before the murder. He went to a Target and he went to a bus stop to pick up his kids. At that point, and she took pictures of all of this surveillance. And when she took pictures of him at his house, there were no cameras up on his house. Then she did not go back until September 6th was her next day of surveillance. And at that day, he was cleaning all 3 of his vehicles, including the Yukon Denali, but not the inside, just the outside of the vehicles. And he spent about 2.5 hours doing this. But she did say at one point he did go inside of the Yukon Denali. He entered it, went inside. She didn't know what he was doing in there. But he was in there and he spent a few minutes in there and then he came out. So who knows? But on that day when she took pictures, there were cameras on the residence. So apparently after the murder of Jeff Gurman, Robert Tellis goes and has cameras installed on his home because he was afraid. Afraid of what? Okay. Then we had a certified forensic computer examiner who examined Robert Tellis's cell phone, which was a Google phone. And on these searches of the phone, he found over 100 photos, 130 photos, like Google Map photos, Google Earth photos of Jeff Gurman's home and the homes in the immediate vicinity. Then he found a picture of Nike shoes that match the ones that you see the guy wearing in the video. And the date on the Nike shoes was August 19th. So if someone is trying to say that they planted these shoes during the search warrant, whose shoes was he photographing back in August? So clearly he did own these shoes. Then on September 5th, after the murder, an app is downloaded to Robert Tellis's phone for Alfred camera home security. So apparently he purchased an Alfred camera and he had an Alfred web viewer website that he accessed so he could see what was on this camera. So then, like I said, 132 images, and that was August 12th. So 2.5 weeks before the murder, he's got all these 132 images on his phone. Then on August 23rd, he had 7 images, which we learned from a later witness, the lead detective, we learned that it was weird images. It was like someone that was conducting surveillance. They were standing in a particular spot for a couple of hours, because you can get the metadata on the photos and figure out the timing of these photos. And they were just photos of vehicles passing on the street, random vehicles, different cars, Hondas, Volkswagens, just different cars. And the police could never figure out what this was, but they wanted to track the location. So they were able to, I don't know how they did it, but they were able to find the exact location where these photos were taken. And it was about 1.5 miles from Jeff German's home, in front of this Popeyes restaurant. And when the detective said, when you stood there, everything was the same as in the photos. There was like this concrete wall. There was like this electrical box. The trees were the same. The mountains in the background was the same. But they could never figure out what the relevance of these pictures were. We don't know why he was taking these pictures, or if he took we don't know what the relevance was. Anyway, on cross-examination, this person was asked, is it possible for someone's cloud to be hacked? Because all these photos were in the Google Cloud, and then they were downloaded. But at one time they had been on his phone, and then they were uploaded to the cloud and then re-download, whatever. Anyway, and he said, yeah, it's possible. Yeah, clouds can be hacked. Okay. So, it's all a conspiracy. Okay, he's being framed. So then we had a homicide detective, the lead detective. She takes the stand, Justine Gertis, and she said that it was her team, so she was in charge, and these cases are assigned at random. There's different teams, and whoever's turn it is, when they find out about the murder, they're up. They get the case. So she got the case. She said that at this scene they did recover the car keys, the phones, the wallet. We knew that the wallet had money in it. The video was released on Monday the 5th. Now, I think in yesterday's video, I may have thought that Monday was the 4th, and I was questioning why somebody saw the video on Monday. Well, Monday was the 5th, the day the video was released. At this point, the state attorney reads the different articles that were written by Jeff German that had to do with Robert Tellis, the titles of the articles. And she referenced a letter that Robert Tellis posted on his campaign website, refuting everything in the articles that was talked about. So I wanted to show you some footage of this testimony about these articles, because one of the articles was in a digital form, a video form. And it was played for the jury, and I want you to see that, because in this video, now the jury's going to learn about the affair. So here it is.
The articles that Mr. Gehrman wrote about Mr. Tellis?
What do you mean a digital version?
Like a version that had an attached
a video clip, yes.
Okay. And sorry, Sarah, but could you move us over? Thank you.
The Clark County Public Administrator's Office has been mired in turmoil and internal dissension for 2 years, with workers claiming emotional stress, bullying, and favoritism. Robert Tellis, who leads the office, has also faced allegations of an inappropriate relationship with a coworker, Roberta Lee Kennett. In an interview with Review Journal investigative reporter Jeff Gehrman, Tellis disputed several complaints.
What is your reaction to the allegations from these employees that you have created a hostile environment in this office?
Yeah. I earlier introduced you to to the other 7 team members. And they're folks who all come with a great attitude, and they work hard. And together, them and I, we are what is making the difference with the performance of this office. I've done my best to try to make everyone happy, but it's got to be within a certain framework. People just cannot get to do whatever they want, and it's unfortunate that, we've got some people who were here from before who were basically trying to railroad me. And again, you met those other folks, they're happy, they're dedicated, and we're just here to do a good job.
Tellis, who's up for re-election in the June primary, blames a handful of old-timers for claims about a hostile environment in the office.
And again, no matter what type of gestures I try to make to smooth things over, to make sure that they're happy, they just don't, it's nonstop. And again, like I said, it's hard for me to make sure that I am a cheerleader for the folks who are doing really good work when I've got these other folks who are constantly, surveilling me, constantly trying to sabotage the office. But, we're doing it, but it's hard.
Tellis denied allegations of any improper relationship with Lee Kennett.
And when you hear people raising these allegations about your personal relationship, how do you say to people about that?
Well, honestly, it's not true. I said, I'm all of my friends, all my family know how much I love my wife. And if you look at, obviously you can't talk to the people I do with on a daily basis. But from my social media, from everything, you can see that I am about nothing but justice, fairness, and just being a good person. And it sickens me, it destroys me that somebody would even level accusations like that, because I don't know, it's unreal. It's unreal the lengths that they're going to. They don't have any qualms trying to ruin my personal life to win this race.
The Clark County Public Administrator's Office had
And for the record, that video was from States 338. So if I could flip back over and put on States 355 again. These messages where he says Mr. Tellis says he's distraught and the article wasn't fair, those appear to be in response to that published article.
Correct.
Yeah. Shopping. They're at the shopping mall, getting out of the vehicles, getting in a separate car, all that good stuff. Roberta straightening her skirt, So the jury knows that, he was being surveilled by people in his office and anyway. But now they know that he was in trouble for being a bad boss. There was claims that he was being bullying. He was not so nice. He told people in the office they couldn't talk to each other. People felt threatened, and he was having an inappropriate affair. So on September 6th, this officer said she worked till like 2:30 in the morning on September 7th, so almost overnight, at what point she had prepared an arrest affidavit to bring in Robert Tellis. So, well, not necessarily an arrest affidavit, but she was preparing to ask for search warrants to get a buccal squad for DNA from Robert Tellis and to search his home. So she gets those so on the morning of the 7th, when Robert Tellis leaves his home, he is pulled over for a traffic stop. Now, where's the body cam footage from the guy that pulled him over? So once he's pulled over for the traffic stop, the detectives are called, they come out, they bring him in, and they bring him in for questioning. So there's, they're like, where's this footage? Where don't you save the footage? Oh, yeah, we saved the footage. It should have been saved. It wasn't saved. So apparently that's been a big issue in this case. Where is this footage of the body cam? This traffic stop that morning of the 7th. And apparently because the traffic stop generates a different case number than the murder, and traffic stops body cam gets overwritten after a certain period of time. So if you're requesting that footage or you don't designate that footage as being related to something else, it just gets written over. And that's apparently what happened. So there's no body cam footage for the traffic stop that morning to affect the warrant for Mr. Tellis' buccal squad. So she takes him in, and for some reason she has Detective Jaffe, come in and speak with him during the interview. Now and she recorded the interview, but she doesn't have body cam. And apparently he wasn't under arrest, so they didn't videotape it, but she records all of her interviews, and then they're transcribed. So the transcription was, 40 pages long. It was lengthy. So the defense attorney was attempting to go through it and talk about different statements that Jaffe was making, or talking to Tellis about. And all of the hearsay objections came, and we didn't get to hear any of that, except for one statement. The defendant was talking about his alarm going off that morning and how he was annoyed by it or something. And Jaffe said to him, well, you're not going to have to worry about any alarms anymore. Meaning, you're going to jail? Yeah. Okay. So they also looked at Jeff Gurman's phone, and on Jeff Gurman's phone, they found 2 angry audio files. And I'll play this for you.
Detective, what I'm going to do is I'm going to direct your attention to these messages that were left. And we don't know for sure whether they're left on Mr. Gehrman's cell phone or not. Obviously, they're tied to his cell phone.
That's correct. Yes.
Fair to say.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And this was the
stop lying to people. Whoever the guy was that wrote that article the other day, you need to fire his ass. Stop lying to people. We're coming for your ass. We are watching you, motherfuckers. You better fire that son of a bitch. And I'm coming down there tomorrow, motherfucker.
Are you aware of the date that this recording was extracted, presumably from Mr. Gehrman's cell phone?
The date that it was extracted,
Correct.
being like that we downloaded the phone.
Correct.
I don't know what that date was.
Okay. We had heard 2 dates on direct, a February 24th, 2022 and February 18th, 2022. Are you able to pinpoint on?
Yes, but I thought those were the modified dates. I'm sorry, I thought you meant the extraction of when the phone was extracted.
Well, that brings me to the point too. Do you know when this was taken from the phone, extracted from the phone?
It was, I know our digital forensic lab conducted the forensic dump. I'm not sure when that was though. I don't know that date.
So you're unable to testify concerning that date at this point in time? Correct.
Correct. But like you were talking about with the 2 dates in February of 2022, yes, those were the 2 voicemails that were, or the 2 audio files that were a little strange.
It's the second one right there? All right, I'm going to have you listen to this one.
You guys just did some propaganda shit out of motherfuckers. Just remind me, you fucking piece of shit. You left wing fucking faggot, fucking socialist fucking pig, motherfuckers. You guys will pay in the end, motherfuckers. You fucking cheated and lied. You guys fucking lied to me. And then you went out there and only fighting all this fucking bullshit, motherfuckers. Fuck you, piece of shit, you motherfuckers. Then do a public fight again, and you guys are fucking dead motherfuckers someday, motherfuckers.
Fair to say that the second voice message is a different individual.
Yeah, I believe so.
And you believe that these both messages were left by political extremists or those that tend to be extremist in nature?
Well, I would say that there are people that were upset with articles that were written. I don't want to judge or assume what their political affiliations are. I just knew they seemed upset.
Fair to say you didn't speak with either of these gentlemen?
No, sir, I did not.
And you were asked and you were shown States Exhibit 367 concerning the date that you thought that these articles may be concerning.
Are we talking about the article that we just brought up?
Correct.
Yes.
And that article was the 22nd of February 2021, correct?
I thought it was February 21st, 2021, but yeah, it's 2021.
Okay. But you're not able to say exactly when these messages were left?
I'm not.
To Mr. Gehrman?
No, I'm not.
Long period, short period, we don't know, do we?
Correct.
So it appears now. I will tell you that I had it sped up, so I'm sorry about that. So you did have to listen to them under 1.5 speed, but they appear to be 2 different people, and they don't appear to be the defendant. So this detective went back and looked at articles that came out around the time of these messages that were on Jeff Gehrman's phone. And it looked like it was in reaction to a political extremist article that was written in February of 2022, 7 months before the murder. So in any case, I don't know what the relevance of all this was. They weren't able to ever track those people down. So I guess just to show that other people had it out for Jeff Gehrman. In fact, the voicemails, those voicemails weren't even played for the jury by the state. The state turned, she's like, I'm done questioning you. Goes over to the defense. The defense says, like, let's play those recordings so that the jury could hear them. What else? So there was a lot of pictures taken of Jeff Gehrman. So there was a lot of pictures taken of Robert Tellis when he was there to give the buckle swat, and he was interviewed because they took all of his clothing and they gave him this like jumpsuit to wear home. And he didn't, so his body was photographed, no injuries anywhere except for his ring finger on his left hand. And I don't remember how he explained that, to be honest with you. But the defense pointed out, he was right-handed. And this detective says, I don't know. I didn't pay any attention if he was left-handed or right-handed. So then the state rested their case. Now, unfortunately, we have not been able to have any coverage of arguments outside the presence of the jury. We just get the clock. We don't get to see any of that argument. So I'm assuming that a motion for judgment of acquittal was made and denied, because then the defense started putting on their case. So they said that because of the speed of this trial, they only had one witness prepared for the following day. So I said, okay, let me go ahead and, this is now day 5. So day 5 comes, and it's a forensic psychologist, Dr. Mark Chambers. And the purpose of him taking the stand was to say that people who are under extreme stress of being accused of a crime, and that stress could be including, things going on in your office, things going on with your family, you're falling from disgrace in the eyes of the public because you went from this public figure, now you're being accused of murder. All of this can lead to a suicide attempt, regardless of whether the person is actually guilty or not. And the only thing I heard about his injuries was that his arms were cut up pretty badly. So he did interview the defendant. We weren't allowed to hear what the defendant said to him. There was no psychological testing done. So we didn't get this doctor's opinion as to whether that's what was going on in the mind of Robert Tellis. But he did want to point out that one of the risk factors for suicide in people accused of a crime is the severity of the crime. And obviously this is the most severe a crime can be. So he said, basically it's like 1 in 1,000 people accused will attempt suicide. And so it's not that common, but more common than the general public, so to speak. And it is not an indicator of a guilty conscience. Okay. Because that was my thought. The jury's going to think, hey, he committed suicide. He tried to commit suicide because he was guilty. And then I told you the jury's allowed to ask questions. Well, they ask a question, and a very good one. They ask, could he have attempted suicide to gain sympathy? Do people do that? And the doctor's like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Very insightful jury. To gain sympathy. Yeah. Make it look, everybody wants to feel sorry for this guy. Yeah. Yeah. So then they, at the last minute, they have one additional witness for day 5. And it was very quick on and off the stand. This woman who had called Crime Stoppers with a tip that she had seen an individual matching the description of the one shown in the video at Bruce Trent Park around 4:30 p.m. on August 28th. She was very specific about all these details. That he was by the children's play area, walked across the playground. He was fully clothed, which she thought was very out of place because it's very hot out in Vegas in September. He was wearing black gloves, a face mask, carrying a duffel bag. He was not wearing reflective clothing, but he had on a hoodie. And she later, when she went to leave the park, she saw him running away from the park, and his hoodie came off, and she said it was a bald man, about 5'9", light skin, male, bald, which matches the defendant. Although I don't even know if he's as tall as 5'9", to be honest with you. So, I mean, what are you going to do with that information? Okay. All right. So you saw him. Okay. I don't even know where to go with that. So here's where I'm going to go with it. One of you commented, one of my subscribers commented that they wanted to see a picture of the guy I said was so good looking, the SWAT guy who brought out the cavalry for the takedown of Robert Tellis. Here's his picture. Oh my God. And if you'll notice in this second picture, he's not married, ladies. He's cute. But I also want to show you what this Detective Jaffe looked like. Here's his picture. So, all right. So the defense is continuing their case. I do believe the defendant is planning to take the stand. So I will bring you that coverage tomorrow. Have a great Wednesday. I'm going to be live tonight at 7 p.m. I have a special guest. It's going to be a crochet night. She's got a crochet small business, and we're going to talk to her, see what she's got for sale. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.